We bring you the news from NHK World, Radio Japan at 8 p.m. Japan time on Sunday, May 28th. I'm Hirokazu Sakamaki.
And I'm Yuka Matsumoto.
In our top stories, leaders of the Group of Seven Nations have shown their readiness to cooperate in the efforts to fight protectionism in trade.
North Korea state-run media say that the military conducted a test of a new type of anti-aircraft guided weapon system.
And key members of the UN Human Rights Council expressed concern about the arrest and detention of a peace activist in a letter to the Japanese authorities. Now the news in detail. Leaders of the Group of Seven Nations have shown their readiness to cooperate in the efforts to fight protectionism in trade. Trade was the main item on the economic agenda at the two-day summit in Sicily, Italy, which was closed on Saturday. The joint statement included the idea against protectionism, while U.S. President Donald Trump continues to demand other countries to lower their tariffs. Meanwhile, the latest G7 summit failed to reach a consensus on the global warming issue. The U.S. is considering to pull out of the new international framework, the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, and leaders of the remaining G7 member nations failed to display unity for quickly putting the Paris Agreement in effect.
The Japanese government aims to have the UN Security Council adopt a resolution on additional sanctions against North Korea. The Japanese government moves will follow the agreement reached by leaders of the Group of Seven Nations at their latest summit to step up pressure on the North, which has been repeatedly launching ballistic missiles. The Japanese government is discussing with permanent members of the UNSC for additional sanctions against North Korea. But the discussions could take time due to differences in stances. While U.S. and Japan hopes to boost pressure, China and Russia say they prefer dialogue. Thus, the Japanese government plans to boost sanctions it imposes on its own. It is preparing to step up its cargo inspection system for preventing illegal exports, such as components that could be used for weapons of mass destruction. By such a measure, the Japanese government hopes to halt nuclear and missile development by the North.
North Korea's state-run media say that the military conducted a test of a new type of anti-aircraft guided weapon system. The Korean Central News Agency said on Sunday that the country's leader Kim Jong-un supervised the test, but it did not report its date or location. The Noron Shimbun, North Korea's Workers' Party paper, carried photos of a missile being fired from a mobile launcher using a cold launch technology. The system employs compressed gas to eject the missile from a tube on the ground before igniting it in midair. The paper said that the system successfully detected and hit the target, which was described as an unmanned aircraft or a missile. The KCNA said that Kim hailed the latest launch, saying that its hitting accuracy has increased and that some defects discovered last year have been overcome. Observers say North Korea wants to show off its development of various weapons as the U.S. military plans to hold joint drills with two of its aircraft carriers near the Korean peninsula.
You are listening to NHK World Radio Japan from Tokyo. The Islamic State militant group has claimed responsibility for an attack on a bus in Egypt that killed 29 people and injured dozens. Gunmen assaulted a bus carrying Coptic Christians in the Minya Governorate, about 200 kilometers south of Cairo on Friday. The Islamic State group released an online statement Saturday saying one of its units attacked the bus. Christian churches in Egypt have been hit by bombings, with more than 70 people killed between December and April. The militant group claimed responsibility for all the attacks in an apparent effort to win support from some Muslims who have ill feelings toward Christians. Authorities in Egypt and many other Muslim-majority countries are on high alert for possible terrorist attacks.
British Airways cancelled all flights from London's Heathrow and Gatwick airports on Saturday after a computer system failure. The problem hit the airline's global IT system in the morning. It disabled check-in services and baggage handling at the two airports. Airline officials ruled out a cyber attack as the cause of the system failure, but they say Sunday's flights may also be affected. The disruption occurred on a busy holiday weekend. British media say BA passengers also experienced severe delays and cancelled flights due to system failures in July and September of last year.
Key members of the UN Human Rights Council expressed concern about the arrest and detention of a peace activist in a letter to the Japanese authorities. The Working Group on Arbitrary Detention and 3 special rapporteurs sent a statement dated February 28th to Japan's government. The statement referred to the case of Hiroji Yamashiro, who heads the Okinawa Peace Action Center. He was arrested last year on suspicion of assaulting a defense official while protesting the construction of U.S. military helipads in Japan's southern prefecture of Okinawa. He was indicted and was detained for more than 5 months until March. The statement said the charges against him represent a criminalization of his legitimate exercise of his rights to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly. The statement also alleged lack of due process, particularly in connection with his long-time detention. It appealed to the Japanese government to take measures to guarantee his right to liberty in accordance with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights.
Research and development spending by major Japanese car makers is expected to reach a record high of about $26 billion for the current fiscal year. The makers are working on next-generation eco-cars for meeting environmental regulations, and they are competing to develop self-driving technology using cameras and sensors. Toyota plans to spend about $9.5 billion for its R&D in this fiscal year, up 1.2% from the previous year. Honda plans to increase the spending by 9.4%, Nissan by 7.1%, and Subaru by 17.3%.
Officials in northern Japan have issued a warning against bears after a woman was found dead in a wooded area. Police suspect the 61-year-old was attacked by a bear from the wounds on her body. The Akita prefectural government started issuing warnings after 4 people died in bear attacks in May and June last year. The warning advises people to avoid known bear habitats and not to work alone in fields near mountains. And that was the news from NHK World Radio Japan in Tokyo. I'm Yuka Matsumoto.
And I'm Hirokazu Sakamaki.
This is NHK World Radio Japan. Please stay tuned.